Good to see you guys. Welcome back, welcome back.
Welcome, welcome.
How can you think of the future when your presence is war? This is the hopeless dilemma young Ukrainians live under right now. The human instinct to run for safety crashes with the strong will to defend your home country. What does the future look like? Where do you find hope? And what does democracy mean to a generation that has witnessed how fragile it can be?
To discuss the issue, we have Justas Stasevskij, a Finnish Ukrainian journalist who was awarded the European of the Year award in 2025 with his siblings Dalia and Lukas.
We have Victoria Trofimova, the leader of the Ukrainian YMCA.
And young activist Anastasiia Luzhna, who has spent the past year working for the Danish-Ukrainian Voices of Defenders project. The project supports young activists and veterans in processing their war experiences and rediscovering their place in society.
The discussion will be hosted by Johanna Korhonen.
So please welcome to the stage Johanna, Justas, Victoria, and Anastasiia. Welcome.
Good afternoon and welcome to the panel discussion. My name is Johanna Korhonen, and on behalf of YMCA Finland, I have the honor to welcome our wonderful panelists, Anastasiia, Victoria, and Justas, and you, dear audience. At the background, throughout the discussion, we will see the powerful documentary and portrait pictures by Ukrainian photographer Katja Moskalik. Some of the pictures portray YMCA youth in Lviv. Some are shot in Kherson and Odessa Oblast. They portray the impact and human cost of the war, as well as the ordinary life. Anastasiia, Victoria, and Justas, what would you do on a Sunday afternoon like this if you were in Ukraine, or Justas covering Ukraine in the news somewhere?
For me personally, I think I would just wake up at this time. Not gonna lie, sorry for that, I love to sleep. Afterwards, I would definitely drink some coffee and post a story on my Insta that I have a fundraising going on, because usually you have something happening in your life and you share with people to fundraise money for something for army. Later, I would probably meet with my friends, or I think we have something with YMCA going on today, so I would probably be there as well. Yeah.
Well, as for me, my day would probably be, in one way, very different from the Sunday you are spending here, but also very much similar. If I'm lucky enough, I will wake up to the sound of my son's voice and not the explosions that often happens. Then me and my family would probably go to spend some time in the nature, but we also have to be aware that there are some areas where there are still mines and debris of drones, so we have to be careful. Or we might go to the cinema in Kyiv, but again, at any moment there can be air raid alert, and we will all need to stop the movie and proceed to the closest bomb shelter. And in the evening, I might go to Instagram and maybe support some of fundraisers that people like Anastasiia are organizing. So my day will be full of war and full of life at the same time. That's the reality we are living in right now.
For me, it could be almost anything. Last time I was visiting Ukraine last month for a few weeks, and for example, I visited a secret arms factory, which is making these long-distance drones. But then I also interviewed an author who is writing books about war for children, so the war literature, how it has changed. And lastly, I met a 16-year-old girl who was at the Kramatorsk railway station in 2022 in April when Russia did this horrific missile attack there, and she was beside her mother, who she lost. And I'm still working on this topic, so very different things.
Victoria, you are the Secretary General of YMCA Ukraine, and you have served in the organization for over a decade. And you have also lived as a refugee in Germany and returned to Ukraine 2024. So from your experience, what kind of conflicting pressures are Ukrainians living under today, and what values are clashing with one another?
I feel like the biggest pressure and the most obvious one is existential. It's about if we wake up after we go to bed. I can feel it every day, and also I can feel it when I see more and more graves with Ukrainian flags in the graveyards, with photographs of people that are much younger than me. And we are living in a reality where we have less public holidays than days of mourning, unfortunately. Another pressure, I think, is between the freedom and responsibility. I want to share a story of one young volunteer, Vitaly, from Odessa YMCA, who is 22 years old. He joined me to one international exchange in Germany last year, and he was invited to go to Oktoberfest. So he saw people celebrating, drinking beer, and he shared, you know, Victoria, I have seen people dancing and having fun so freely without judgment or without feeling guilty. I have heard that this was like that in Ukraine as well, but I was still a kid at the point. He has been living in a country at war for more than 10 years now. So he was 12 when the war started in Ukraine. And soon he will turn 23, will not be allowed to leave the country anymore, and will be called to serve in the army at any moment. Yet he decides to go back and to serve his community, to support young people. And that is something that truly matters, that people make this choice between their freedom to build their own lives and their responsibility to build their country and defend their country.
Justas, you are a Finnish Ukrainian journalist and have worked both in Ukraine and Poland. So from your experience, what is one of the biggest challenges facing Ukraine today that isn't discussed enough, or maybe it is discussed a little bit too little in the public sphere?
Yeah, I think there could be many topics that are not seen so much in the media, but for sure one of the biggest, if not the biggest, question and challenge for Ukraine is the demographic crisis. The birth rate in Ukraine is one of the lowest in the whole world, which is not such a big surprise during the war, but also over 5 million Ukrainians have moved abroad because of the war. And very many of these people who have moved away are children and young Ukrainians who should be exactly the ones who would be rebuilding the future Ukraine, and actually over 1/3 of Ukrainian children remain displaced, and many of them are living abroad. So this combination, low birth rate, a war without an end destination, is very scary for Ukraine. And the question is, how can Ukraine get these people back? Because of course, after so many years of war, many of these people who they have assimilated to their new countries, and many polls suggest that they don't plan to return to Ukraine even after the war. But in the same time, we have an example from Ukraine where many people living closer to the front lines in southern Ukraine, eastern Ukraine, have moved to western Ukraine, and they kind of show an example. It's possible to rebuild your lives within the country. And I think Ukraine has the possibility of getting its people back, but I think Ukrainian government should already act much more strong. It should motivate these people to come back, give incentives, and especially a clear vision of future for these people, and to give them a reason to return.
Anastasiia, you are a volunteer in YMCA Ukraine, and you have worked for the past year in a project supporting young activists and veterans in processing their war experiences and finding their place again in society. So from your opinion, how does war limit young people's opportunity to build their lives?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. And I think the first thing I would like to mention is mental health struggles it limits a lot of people with a lot of things in general. And a fun thing, or not so, is that grapefruit juice is almost always on sale in Ukraine because you cannot combine grapefruit juice and antidepressants. So that's a bad fact in general. Also, adding to that, we have a great brain drain. A lot of people are moving abroad, seeking security and peace somewhere else, and stability, obviously. Adding to that, we have economic instability, which is, I think, affecting everyone, not only youth. And when you think about building your own life and like what will you do in 5 years, it's so hard to say because you don't know if you will be there tomorrow. So it also influences a lot of things. And to add one thing is that when we do have studies, we have interruptions with air raids, sometimes universities are closed because they were bombed and people cannot go to destroyed university. And also, what I would like to finish is we didn't have much time to transfer from being a kid to an adult. So I remember myself being on a 26th of February on 2022 on evacuation train. I was going to Poland, not knowing what is going on, what will happen. And I just turned 18 3 weeks before that. And I remember this click of, yeah, now I have to deal with a lot of things I don't understand even yet. So a lot of people also struggle with that. And unfortunately, we lost this young adult moment. We went straight to maturity. So, yeah.
And what does democracy mean to young people living amidst the war?
Yeah, I think for us, it's like a cup of coffee. It's something you have every day. It's something you defend every day. It's our routine. Whatever we do this for being free in our free country. So it also means when the rules are made about us, they should be made with us, so that youth have a voice and also defenders have a voice when they have some new law according to them. We had a good experience of when our parliament decided on a law that was actually destroying independence of our anti-corruption facilities. And whole Ukraine, via stories, they shared that on this day we will be protesting, so come on. And I swear to you, a lot of people were actually up to 35 years who were debating their voices, who were not debating, but defending their voices. And they wanted to be heard. And I remember myself, I graduated bachelor that day, and my mom was holding a cupboard when I was receiving my diploma. And right after the graduation, I actually went to the protest place and met with my friends, and a lot of them also had graduation. So even without, when you have your everyday life, sometimes you also have to speak up. And democracy for us is being able to speak up and also being heard. Thank you.
Justas, how do you see the state of civil society in Ukraine today, and of course, people's opportunities to influence the society?
Well, Ukraine is known for its strong civil society. Ukraine wouldn't exist today if it hadn't a strong civil society, and that's also the main differentiator between Ukrainians and Russians. And Anastasiia here gave just a good example of what happened last summer. Even during the wartime, people were ready to fight for their rights. Of course, now, in the wartime, we have to understand that all the energy of the society goes to defense. And also, Anastasiia and Victoria gave here examples, and that's also what I see. For example, when I open my Instagram, I see that there are young Ukrainians who are organizing a fundraising with very clear goals, that we are collecting money for this vehicle, for this and that brigade, and that's, of course, the most important level of influencing the whole country at the moment. Of course, from another point of view, besides that, I think the opportunities to develop the society at wartime are a little bit limited. And I am a little bit worried about the younger generations. Do they get enough opportunities to influence the country and country's future? And to give an example, for example, Ukraine's political system is built very differently as our countries here in the Western Europe, where we have parties from left to right. And of course, we have also these huge political organizations. And because of lack of these organizations and structures, I have a little bit of feeling that I'm seeing already division among young Ukrainians between those who see their future in Ukraine and also between those who are already looking elsewhere.
Victoria, you have said that one of the most important tasks of YMCA Ukraine is to support young people's agency, both during the war and, of course, then in the reconstruction of the country, rebuilding the country. So, in your opinion, why is it important to support democracy, education, and young people's active participation, especially during the war?
Well, I believe that Ukrainians show how much they value democracy by defending it on the front lines. And this is the sacrifice so many people are making, sacrificing their safety, their choices, their future, and sometimes their life for democracy and for our rights. And it also brings a lot of responsibility for us to build democracy that is stronger, fairer, that gives those opportunities Justas is speaking about, so young people get access to those. And we as the YMCA are trying to provide spaces where young people can be heard, can be connected, can have influence on their communities, and also can feel not powerless in the face of war.
Anastasiia, what might this support and young people's participation look like from your point of view?
In my experience, what I saw in our YMCA Ukraine and in Ukraine in general, we have a lot of programs definitely supporting some individuals with their empowerment, leadership skills, and also their understanding of democratic values, democratic rights. And also, for example, we have Voices of Defenders project, where we support young veterans who stopped their war period. I'm not gonna lie, I'm not sure how to say that properly, but the thing is, we try to support them sometimes with just expression, so that they can express themselves through the poems we publish and we voice over and publish online. And also, according to young activists, we have some programs around whole Ukraine, supporting them and educating them. But what is very important for me personally, and what I see in others, is that when you support democracy and you support young people who will be sharing these democratic values around their colleagues and their society, it's very important to also support individuals, like a specific individual. Sometimes a human needs human to be heard, to be visible. So it's not only about knowledge, it's also about supporting other people. Yeah.
Thank you. What message would you all like to leave for the audience? If you just start, and then we go to Anastasiia and Victoria, please.
Well, my message for the Finnish audience is that we should never forget where this all started from, because this has been continuing already so long that we might lose the feeling where did this all begin from. And it all began in 2013, when a bunch of students, young students, didn't want to give up before pro-Russian president and their dream of Ukraine's place in the EU. So what they did, they took the EU flags and they went to the main square in Kiev to protest. That's the beginning point. And actually, funny enough, last week, 1 week ago, when Russia was celebrating its Victory Day, Putin admitted for the first time that it was the Ukraine's EU aspiration that made Russia to intervene. So we might have accidentally hear the truth finally. So EU is a question of life and death for Ukraine. That's when I hear people demanding that Ukraine should go all the regular steps to become an EU member that other countries go, it feels almost arrogant for me, because Ukraine has made such a big sacrifice for the whole Europe. Many nations wouldn't have ever done. So EU means for Ukraine right for its future, for people's own future. And I have a feeling we don't fully understand always this. And when I was speaking also about millions of Ukrainians who have left and won't possibly ever return anymore. So actually EU is one of the very few reasons that gives these people a reason and hope to return to their home country. Thank you.
And maybe continue on Justas, I would like to add, my message is that we don't have to delay our lives, even if we don't have a basic human right, safety and being alive. We still can evolve and grow in different ways, in different personal, impersonal, and social ways. And also what I wanted to mention is, you know, this is my first time in Finland, and I saw so many Ukrainian flags, and it warms your heart so much I can even express to you. So for all people here listening to that, and for all people who are standing out there and who are putting these flags on and just spreading information about Ukraine, I'm going to say big thanks for your support, for your help, and that you see us, you speak about us, and you don't forget about us. And that's what is very important for me as a young person. I know that we are seen, we are heard, and we are visible. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I also want to thank you all for the solidarity and for support, for empathy. And I want to say that in these past 2 years, I have been thinking a lot about the values that keep me holding on. And I think the top 3 of mine are freedom. I started valuing it even more. Freedom to choose, freedom to build your life, to live fully and openly. Believe me, it's a big privilege to have that. It's dignity, how people can act with humanity in the most difficult circumstances. I see it a lot in Ukraine, and not only. And also love, because when you are connected to people you care about, and you find strength to support, to continue going, and then in your heart there is much less space for hatred. And I think that war strips life down to very essential things. It gives you meaning and it gives you strength. And that is why also this solidarity is so important to us, because it's not only about resources, it's much more about the feeling that what we are standing for and fighting for is, has deeper meaning, not only for Ukraine, but for others in the world as well. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you also from my side for the amazing discussion. Thank you, Anastasiia, Victoria, Justas. And thank you, great audience. We invite you to join for informal meet and greet outside this hall for 25 minutes. Thank you. Thank you once more.